Welcome Commanders to today's briefing. Today we will be going over Crimson Echoes. This event marks the beginning of Azur Lane's main story. We set the stage with an episode centered around the rivalry between IJN battlecruiser Amagi and IJN battleship Kaga and their goal to become the next flagship of the IJN fleet. In real life, Amagi was the name of a battlecruiser designed by the Imperial Japanese Navy. Amagi was one of 4 Amagi-class battlecruisers planned to be built, the others being Akagi, Artago, and Takao. However, to prevent a naval arms race from happening, the 1922 Washington Naval Treaty was signed, limiting the number of capital ships the signatories could have in their navies. As a result, the Imperial Navy decided they would convert Amagi and Akagi into aircraft carriers. But in 1923, while under construction, Amagi's hull was irreparably damaged during the Great Kanto earthquake, and had to be scrapped. In place of Amagi, the Tosa-class battleship Kaga was then chosen to be converted into an aircraft carrier. Now Commanders, with the history lesson done, it's time for us to see what is going on in the Sakura Empire. We open in the northern Pacific Ocean on the battlefield with Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, and Soryu. Having already sent a strike group out, they are in the midst of preparing to launch another. As they start to load the weaponry for their fighters, a strike group from the Eagle Union surprises them from the rear and attacks Kaga, sinking her into the cold ocean depths. As Kaga sinks beneath the waves, she thinks back some years prior to when she played chess with her rival Amagi. That day, Amagi had bested her 10 consecutive times, teasing her for playing into her strategy and being caught off guard. Unwilling to let this go, Kaga demands another round, only to suffer a humiliating 11th loss in a row. Amagi proposes that rather than a board game, they have a real battle at the annual naval exercises to be held in 2 days. This motivates Kaga, as a real battle, mock or not, involves much more than just board game tactics. She's out here ready to prove that she, and not Amagi, is the most powerful ship in the Sakuran fleet. When you are a battleship, you gotta throw your weight around, and put those battlecruisers in their place. On the day of the naval exercises, Nagato, the flagship of the Sakuran combined fleet, divides the participants into red and blue teams and, in a surprise to everyone, declares that the flagship of the winning side will be appointed as the combined fleet's next flagship. So we really out here playing for all the marbles. The wargames start and Amagi, flagship of the Red Fleet, moves to the front. She first confronts Hatakadze and defeats her, easily. Destroyers simply cannot match the firepower of a full-fledged battlecruiser. However, Amagi still praises Hatakadze for her effort and for doing her duty. Through their battle, Hatakadze noticed that Amagi was acting differently than normal, more determined. Amagi could have easily gotten the same result by commanding from the rear, yet here she was, being the tip of the spear. She asks Amagi why this is the case. Is it because she really wants to become the new flagship? But Amagi brushes it off, saying that the world is on the precipice of change and that the Sakura Empire must be ready to adapt. If they do the same thing they've always done, they are sure to be left behind when it comes to fighting on the battlefield. For that reason, she puts herself on the front lines. 1, because she isn't a coward, and 2, in order to try out some new strategies she's been cooking up. Most likely seeing if Kaga will take the bait. As Amagi heads back to the port after the end of day 1, she begins to cough. And says that she feels like she could faint, a telltale sign that nothing is wrong and there is no cause for concern, surely. Day 2 begins and Amagi faces off against Naka. Much like with Hatakadze, she effortlessly defeats her, but consoles Naka by complimenting her for her spirit and for implementing the knowledge she has gained from her sisters. This leads them to have a conversation about family, with Amagi wishing that her sister Akagi would be more like Naka. Apparently Akagi has some growing up to do, as her uncontrolled strength makes her reckless. It's fine when things go right, but when they don't, it can lead to disastrous consequences for those around her. Naka reassures her that nothing will go wrong as Amagi will always be there to guide her. Amagi suddenly suffers a coughing attack, which catches Naka by surprise. Regaining her composure, Amagi sends Naka back to port, and wonders for how much longer will she actually be there to watch over her sister. Spoiler alert, in case it wasn't obvious already, this is what we call a death flag. The next day comes and the port is in a frenzy. Amagi runs into Hatakadze, who asks for her help with a little problem. Turns out, little sis has been acting up and needs to be disciplined. Akagi intended to take Amagi's place in the day's exercises. Kaga uncovers her scheme and asks what good would she even do, reminding her that she doesn't even have any equipment or battle experience. Akagi fires back, calling Kaga a coward who ran with her tails between her legs. I believe that is what they call shots fired. Always striving to be better, Kaga has learned from her losses, saying that she won't fall victim to Amagi's tricks like the last time, before throwing her rank as a battleship around, belittling Akagi and saying her only redeeming feature is her chest size. The argument continues and shows no sign of stopping, until Amagi shows up behind them, smiling, but with the scary aura emanating for all to see. She forces them to stop, and by forces, I mean, gives them the look. This is the power of an One-san. The third day commences and Kaga and Amagi come face to face on the battlefield. Amagi praises Kaga for her tactics and Kaga credits Amagi for teaching her the hard way. Before they fight, the two make a deal. Whoever loses will serve the winner, doing whatever they say. Which, if you think about it, simply means that they will take orders from the newly appointed flagship. So no, this isn't what you think it means. Amagi's side overcomes Kaga's, surrounding her. Kaga concedes defeat and mentions that Amagi has been hiding her combat capabilities. She was able to defeat her, even though her hull is stronger and better armored. Kaga is impressed that Amagi is able to stay calm and shift her strategy and tactics even in the middle of an intense battle. They share a bonding moment as the battle finally ends, both recognizing and respecting the other, but with Amagi emerging as the battle's victor. At the awards ceremony, Nagato praises all that participated and made the exercises a success. They will use this experience in their fight against the Sirens, and any other enemies to the Sakura Empire. Amagi is appointed as the next flagship, which will take place at a later time, and Akagi is so happy she cries tears of joy. All are happy and have reason to celebrate, until the last piece of news hits everyone like an artillery shell. A new treaty has been signed, limiting the naval power of all participating factions. New capital ships can no longer be built, ones in development will be halted, and those that do not meet the treaty's terms will be scrapped. 2 weeks have passed since the naval exercises took place, and more details of the treaty have come to light. Understanding she would be scrapped, Kaga leaves a farewell message to Amagi before charging into Siren-controlled territory, alone. Amagi assembles a rescue team and rushes to find Hosho to ask for her aid. Hosho is the Sakura Empire's first aircraft carrier, and Amagi wants her to send out her planes to help find the missing battleship. Hosho is hesitant. She has only had her planes for a short time and has never used them in combat. But, sensing Amagi's desperation, she agrees to help, and launches her planes. Everyone on the rescue team watches in awe, sensing the dawn of a new age. The future of warfare on the seas will be fought in the air. Amagi leans in to whisper something into Hosho's ear before turning to Akagi. Akagi wants to go with the squad TM, but her rigging is still under construction and she has yet to be equipped. Because of the treaty, Akagi, who was originally meant to be a battlecruiser like her sister, will now be converted into an aircraft carrier, one of the most infamous of the Pacific Theater. But that's a story for another day. Amagi reassures Akagi that everything will be all right, and promises to return safely with Kaga. The rescue team surges out to sea following Hosho's recon planes. They soon encounter Siren resistance, noticing that in only 2 weeks, the Sirens have already taken over the training area the naval exercises were held. Amagi charges forward. Unlike in chess, a leader cannot sit back on the battlefield, not while their friends are in danger. She finds a scrap of cloth floating on the surface, and notices that it is part of Kaga's clothing. They are on the right track. Ashigara reports that they've lost contact with one of Hosho's planes, and Amagi deduces that that is the direction of the sirens and the fighting. But, before they can give chase, black dots appear in the sky. They are under attack by a carrier-class siren, and Amagi orders everyone to prepare for battle. They repel the enemy attack, finding Kaga soon after. Amagi walks up to Kaga and asks her why she is doing this. Does she think death will solve her problems? Kaga says that if she is going to be converted into something as weak as a carrier, she would rather die. Amagi's hand whips across Kaga's face, leaving a handprint on her cheek, scolding Kaga, as her comrades now bleed because of her selfishness. Kaga asks what can she do if she can no longer fight, and Amagi reassures her that she's already worked out a plan with Nagato. So long as she can prove her worth in the next naval exercise, Kaga won't be decommissioned. Before leaving, Amagi revealed her condition to Nagato, and convinced her to have Kaga take her place in being retrofitted into an aircraft carrier. Understanding that her time left was short, Amagi wants Kaga to be there to guide the Sakura Empire into the future. So yes, what you thought was going to happen, happened. With renewed resolve, Kaga climbs out of her despair. But before everyone can return home, another wave of fighters appears, and the rescue team is forced to defend. The rescue team is able to defeat the carrier-class siren, but rather than retreat, the remaining enemy fighters stay just out of range, looking for an opening to resume their attack. Amagi suddenly starts coughing and collapses, with Kaga catching her at the last moment. The lingering aircraft sense an opening, and attack, dropping a bomb aimed right for Amagi. Kaga shields her with her own body. The bomb hits, ripping apart her armor. The rescue team, low on ammo, is assaulted on all sides by the enemy planes. With no real plan, Kaga begins to resign themselves to their fate. At that moment, siren planes are shot out of the sky. The reinforcements have arrived, as Sakura planes start shredding through the enemy. Turns out, Amagi had told Hosho that should she lose any of her planes, to scramble fighters in that direction. Unlike Kaga, Amagi is always 2 steps ahead. The rescue team, now safe and successful in their mission to find Kaga, finally returns back to port. Kaga makes a visit to Amagi, who has been recovering ever since they got back. Hatakadze explains that Amagi's wisdom cube had been severely damaged, and that Amagi had most likely been dealing with it for some time. A wisdom cube is the core of a ship girl. It contains the data and information from which they are formed. The easiest explanation is to think of it as their heart, and that Amagi's heart had been damaged for a while now. Hatakadze suspects that the damage is so bad, soon Amagi will no longer be able to live a normal life, leaving Kaga stunned. Sometime later, at the request of Amagi, Nagato holds another naval exercise. Separated into opposing teams once again, Kaga and Amagi are set to face off. Kaga asks Amagi why she is doing this, and Amagi tells her that the age of capital ships is over. Her time is over. Now is the age of the aircraft carrier. But before it comes, she wants to feel the pulse of her cannons one last time. And so, they clash. Finally, Kaga comes out on top. Amagi praises Kaga for her growth, and says she has nothing left to teach her little sister, which flusters Kaga. Amagi begins to reflect on her life, noting how unlike Kaga, who was born strong, she was born weak. But through her studies and preparation, Amagi was able to project an image of strength, in order to protect Akagi and the country. Now it is Kaga's turn. Together with Akagi, they are to become the strength that will protect the Sakura Empire. And, as a final wish, Amagi asks Kaga to look after her little sister for her. We return back to the present with Kaga, once again, looking gorgeous and wifeable. It must be the haircut. Kaga awakens back in Sakura territory and not too worse for wear. She asks Akagi what happened, and Akagi, having also just woken up, doesn't know either. Very suspicious. At that point, Kaga notices something odd. Akagi's personality seems completely different from what it was before. But before she can ask further about it, Akagi tells her it's time to go to her sanctuary. Looks like her plans are moving as expected, and that soon they would be able to meet her. In the sanctuary, Akagi notices that someone had snuck in and had been snooping around. She summons Tester, one of the sirens, to her side to help identify the intruder. Thinking that they were from 5th Carrier Division, she deploys a new weapon she's developed to test their capabilities. And that's the story of Crimson Echoes, the first chapter of the prologue, as listed in the in-game timeline. In this event, we get to see the dynamic between Amagi and Kaga. While they are initially set up as rivals, it never really feels that way. Amagi plays more of an older sister role. She cares about Kaga and Akagi and wants to make sure they can survive without her. We also see how both Kaga and Amagi deal with their feelings of inferiority. Kaga is constantly trying to prove her worth, and is a bit hard-headed when it comes to her understanding of what strength is. Amagi, on the other hand, tried to hide her weaknesses, masking them with effort and preparation, and hiding her true condition from others. Both were strong in their own ways, but neither felt that they achieved true strength. So, what do you think? Are you Team Red? Or Team Blue? Or do you love all fox girls equally, wishing they would cradle you in their fluffy tails? Hit the like button if you are Team Fox Girl, and let me know who your favorite is in the comments section below. Until the next video, Commanders. Dismissed.